evening, peoples, and welcome again to our informal Bible study series on the book of Ecclesiastes. I have lured the cat to lie still with an electric blanket, so we'll see how that goes, if she stays because of the electric blanket. So tonight we are reading a third section of Ecclesiastes. It's probably a passage that most of you are familiar with. It's maybe most often read at funerals, but it's still a lovely piece of poetry that shouldn't be relegated to only funerals. So our reading tonight, again, is translated by my friend, the Reverend Alex Peterson. So from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verses 1 through 22. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up what is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to throw away stones, and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to throw away. A time to tear, and a time to sow. A time to keep silence, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time for war, and a time for peace. What surplus does the worker have in his toil? I have studied the busyness God has given the children of humanity with which to be preoccupied. God has made everything appropriate in its time, and yet has set eternity in their hearts, so that humanity cannot find out the work God has done from beginning to end. I know that nothing is good for them, except if they rejoice and experience good in their lives. And moreover, all humanity should eat, drink, and enjoy the good in all their toil. This is a gift from God. I know that all God does is eternal. To it, nothing can be added, and from it, nothing can be taken. And God has done this so that we should stand in awe before the Lord. What is has already been, and what will be has already been, and God will seek what is pursued. Moreover, I saw under the sun that in the place of justice, wickedness was there, and in the place of righteousness, wickedness was there as well. I said in my heart, God will judge the righteous and the wicked, for God has appointed a time for every matter and for every work. I said in my heart, with regard to children of humanity, that God is testing them to show that they are but animals. For the fate of humanity's children and the fate of animals is the same. As one dies, so dies the other. They all have the same breath, and humans have no advantage over the animals, for all is smoke. All go to one place, all are from the dust, and all turn to dust again. Who knows whether the human spirit goes upward and the spirit of animals goes downward to the earth? So I saw that there is nothing better than that all should enjoy their work, for that is their lot. Who can bring them to see what will be after them? This is the word of the Lord. So the teacher in Ecclesiastes likes to ask rhetorical questions. So is there a meaning or an extra benefit to everything that we work for? That really might depend on who is answering the question, but it's not necessarily one that the teacher himself answers. There is a season for everything. And so like we talked about last week and the week before, All of life is hevel. It's breath, it's smoke, it's vapor. It's something that surrounds us, but we can't grab onto it. It's not necessarily bad, and it's not necessarily good, but it's there all around us. So my favorite season of the year is fall, mostly because Halloween is my favorite holiday. But fall comes and goes in a cycle, and summer comes and goes in a cycle. Throughout our lives, there is a time for dancing. Now is currently not a time for dancing. Now is also a time to refrain from embracing. I've been alone for 51 days, you all. 51 days, just the cat. She's good company, but 6 pounds is only so much to hug. Oh, sorry, I woke you up, didn't I? So all of these things come and go. They're not necessarily rewards for good behavior, and they're not necessarily punishments for bad behavior. They just come and go. That's how the universe is. So I'd like to quote a very wise man by the name of Jean-Luc Picard, who said, "It is possible to make no mistakes and still lose. That is not weakness, that is life." Whether or not you're a Star Trek fan, I think it's still a valid insight that even when we make no mistakes, that doesn't mean that everything is going to line up perfectly. We certainly didn't cause the current pandemic, but there it is all around us. So it might be good to keep some things in perspective, that it will get better. On the other hand, things will at some point also not be good. But the point is that we keep going even when things aren't good. So kind of like Doug, the weird sheep in Sunday's sermon, decided that what was most worth looking at in the world was that even when bad things happened to good sheep, those good sheep continued to help each other, even though bad things happened. They didn't give up. So even when it is not the time for dancing, we go on and the world keeps spinning. And even when it's not a time for planting, we go on and the world keeps spinning. And in the grand scope of human history, most of us will probably be forgotten. But the tides will continue to roll in and out, and will continue to go around the sun, and God's creation will still be there and will still be good. We can draw a lot of wisdom from the people who have gone before us, such as the teacher in Ecclesiastes, who says that everything that has happened, that is happening now, has already happened, and everything that will happen has happened before. So we can, in fact, learn from our parents and our grandparents and our great, etc., and the people who have come before us. And we can leave lessons for those who will come after us. But the world will keep going, even when it seems like it won't. So I think this is a really lovely piece of poetry from Ecclesiastes, and it should, honestly, I think it's every bit as valid for weddings or any regular Sunday as it is for funerals. It should come up more often. So there is a time for everything. And peoples, I truly hope that the time to see you again will come sooner rather than later. But until that day comes, stay healthy, peoples, until we can see each other again. Let's see if